The transfer window closes tomorrow and Premier League clubs are standing firm, today rejecting offers totalling £277 million. And will Uruguay's Luis Suarez be fit for their World Cup qualifier against Argentina? We'll hear from one former strike partner who hopes he will. Hello, I'm Kate Mason with your beIN Sports News. 24 hours from the English transfer window closing, and it looks like Philippe Coutinho and Alexis Sanchez will be staying where they are. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Ross Barkley and Danny Drinkwater are also players in demand, but today's offers just don't seem to be landing. We're joining beIN Sports' Matt Critchley, who's at Anfield for us with all the latest. Matt, Barcelona seem prepared to go up to £148 million. But will Liverpool's response be changing?
No, I don't think so, Kate. I think whatever Barcelona offer, whatever any team offers, Liverpool's stance has been clear and concise throughout this transfer window that they won't accept any offers for the player. They won't consider a transfer for Philippe Coutinho. Remember that they issued a statement, the club's owners, for FSG, back on August the 11th, which said the club's definitive stance is that no offers will be considered and that Philippe Coutinho will be a Liverpool player when the transfer window closes. And we've had fairly regular contact, regular dialogue with the club over the past 2 or 3 weeks to ask what's happening, to see if anything has changed, and they say every time, no, the situation remains the same. Liverpool will not be accepting any offers, will not be looking for any negotiations. So even though Coutinho handed in that transfer request, it seems that that hasn't been enough on this occasion to force the move. It seems that Philippe Coutinho, as you mentioned, will be staying as a Liverpool player unless something dramatic changes, unless something dramatic happens tomorrow, when we've seen it happen in the past. But I think it's very, very unlikely because, of course, once the owners put out a statement like that, to go against it and to sell the player would be a big shift, would be a big move away, and would clearly upset the fans here. You may have seen 1 or 2 reports that Liverpool now are apparently willing to accept €160 million for the player. That is not my understanding. As I say, to just repeat, I've spoken to the club today and they say no, there's no change in our stance. Philippe Coutinho will stay a Liverpool player. We won't be doing any transfer business with Barcelona or anybody else. Coutinho currently away with the Brazilian national side, of course. They have a game on Friday. They face Ecuador and then they face Colombia on Tuesday, and then it will be interesting to see what happens after that, because of course he hasn't featured so far this season, but when he returns here to Merseyside he'll be preparing for that big Premier League clash, Liverpool versus Manchester City. Will he be involved in that starting lineup? We'll wait to see.
Yes, because if Philippe Coutinho does stay, he could now have competition from Monaco's Thomas Lemar. Can you tell me anything about that transfer, Matt?
Yeah, this one looked like it was a possibility, and one thing I should say from the outset is that Liverpool again insists that any deal for Thomas Lemar or any other player is away from the Philippe Coutinho situation. So I think Liverpool had money to spend. We know that they've agreed a deal for Naby Keita to arrive here in a year's time, and they've spent around £55 million on him. I think there's some money in the pot for Liverpool, so any deal for Lemar or anybody else was away from the Coutinho situation. I think Liverpool were interested in Lemar. Of course, Arsenal have made inquiries about the player throughout the summer, but I think that one's not quite going to happen. I don't think that Monaco are looking to sell after the amount of departures they've had from the south of France over the past couple of months. There's a talk that even Barcelona could be going and having a look at Thomas Lemar, because of course they can't get their number one target, Philippe Coutinho, so maybe Barcelona will look. And it's true to say that Liverpool had an interest in the player, but I think it's unlikely that he'll end up at Anfield. We haven't heard any real developments on that score over the past 2 or 3 hours, so again, I don't think that one's going to happen.
All right, so more rumours for you. Why does it seem as though Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain would prefer to be at Anfield to Stamford Bridge?
Well, it's slightly more than a rumour, Kate. I think at this stage we know that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain played here in the 4-0 drubbing, you have to call it that, for Arsenal against Liverpool on Sunday. He didn't put in the greatest performance, neither did many of his team, and he has really for the last 4 or 5 months said that he wants to leave the Emirates Stadium, he wants to leave Arsenal and move to a different club, I think for his career, to play more games, to play more regularly. A deal was agreed with Chelsea for his services around about £40 million, and the player went to speak to Antonio Conte, but that didn't happen. I think Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has basically rejected that move to Chelsea and has favoured a move to Liverpool, really because of the fact that I think it's to do with his position on the pitch. I think he's had talks with the club here, and he's basically expressed that Oxlade-Chamberlain will be playing more in a midfield three, which is his preferred position, rather than as a wing back, which is where he probably would have played at Chelsea as an alternative for Victor Moses on that right hand side. So clearly there's been talk with Jurgen Klopp and people here at Liverpool, and Oxlade-Chamberlain has liked what he's heard and would prefer a move here to Liverpool than to go to Chelsea. The deal around 2 or 3 hours ago was struck with Arsenal. We understand that the monies have been agreed between the two clubs. The player is training with England down in the Midlands at the moment ahead of their World Cup qualifying games this week. We understand that a medical could take place even today, and that deal expected to be announced either later tonight or tomorrow, but expect Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to be a Liverpool player by the end of the transfer window.
Goodness, and you mentioned Arsenal's poor form the other day. Now, it looks as though Raheem Sterling won't be part of that exchange for Alexis Sanchez. Do you think Arsenal can sell the player even without someone coming in?
I think Arsenal would clearly like to hold on to Alexis Sanchez at all costs. We know that there's been interest from the likes of Paris Saint-Germain over this summer. Various other clubs have come in. Manchester City had a bid for around £50 million rejected yesterday for Alexis Sanchez. His contract runs out at the end of the season, and we understand that Arsenal are looking for a figure between £65 or £70 million to enable him to leave the club. I think Arsene Wenger has stated that he would be not happy, but if he had to, he would let his contract run down and he would lose him for free at the end of this season. Arsenal are trying to stand firm. Only an offer that would exceed 60 or 65 million pounds, I think, would interest them at this stage. There had been talk over the past couple of days that maybe Manchester City were willing to put Raheem Sterling as part exchange with cash for Alexis Sanchez. That's not the case. City don't want to let Raheem Sterling go, so that won't happen. It will be a straight cash deal if it does happen, but it'll need to be a big cash deal if that happens tomorrow, and I think that's unlikely.
Thank you, Matt Crishley at Anfield. Well, we're still waiting on confirmation of Kylian Mbappe's €180 million move from Monaco to Paris Saint-Germain. Mbappe is believed to have passed his medical and agreed personal terms in Clairefontaine yesterday, where the striker is currently training with the France national team. It's the second huge signing from PSG after securing the world record €222 million transfer of Neymar from Barcelona. Mbappe will finally initially join on a season-long loan with a deal in place to sign him next summer. One man heading out of PSG is Serge Aurier. He's close to joining Tottenham after the Ivory Coast international was granted a work permit, with the right-back set to join for around £23 million. Benedict Höwedes has arrived in Turin for a medical before making his move to Juventus. The Germany defender has captained Bundesliga side Schalke for the last 6 years. He'll bolster a Juve defence that lost Leonardo Bonucci to AC Milan earlier this summer. And Borussia Dortmund have completed the signing of fullback Jeremy Toljan from Hoffenheim for a reported fee of €5 million. Toljan has a 5-year deal at Dortmund, who have loaned out 19-year-old Felix Passlack to Hoffenheim in return. A packed day 3 at the US Open has just started as the Welcome back. Diego Forlan says Luis Suarez will do all he can to be fit for Uruguay's crucial World Cup qualifier against Argentina. Forlan exclusively told beIN Sports that teams fear the Barcelona striker and that with him, Uruguay are quite a force.
Nobody wants to play with the best. Also, if you know that you have a small gap for errors, you know, like it's going to be here because you have 4 games left to the end of the qualifying, and you need to get points. So if the best players are not playing, it's going to be better for everybody. I think he would try to, you know, because he knows that it's really important for us, for the national team, for the country. It's a really nice game to do it, and we need the 3 points.
So with 4 matches to play, the South American World Cup qualifying table looks like this. 2 points separate 4 teams, with Ecuador still in contention in 6th. Brazil have already qualified for next year's tournament. And this is where you can watch all the matches on beIN Sports. Venezuela play Colombia first on Friday morning. Chile take on Paraguay, that's available in 3 different languages. Then the big game of the round, Uruguay hosting Argentina in Montevideo. Finally, Brazil entertain Ecuador and Peru take on Bolivia. Now, the Asian section of World Cup qualifying is heating up. The United Arab Emirates are still in contention after beating Saudi Arabia 2-1. Great.